look at the query interface in Access. Now, the way that we create a query, it's a little bit clunky because there's lots of different functionality offered in Access, but we're just going to hone down on the query part of Access because that's where we want to actually practice our SQL. So if we've already got our Access database loaded in here, and you can see up here we have a menu item, and if I click on Create, that shows us the Create part of the ribbon. And our focus is specifically on this part here, creating a query. Now, there is a wizard built into Access, but we're not going to focus on the wizard because that very much is specific to Access. And what we really want to focus on here is the notion that SQL is a transferable skill. We're going to focus on learning SQL. So I'm going to click on Query Design. I'm not going to use the wizard. And in Access, what that does is that takes us into this sort of almost like a query by example interface where you can use drag and drop. Again, not really that interested in this interface because it's specific to Access. We're focusing on SQL. And if you look over here in the top left-hand corner, you can see we've actually got this thing here that says Views. And what we can do is we can select to use SQL View. So if I just tap on that, I've now gone into a very basic text editor where I can type SQL queries in. So let's type one in. So I'm going to type in, let's type in the simplest one of all. Let's go select, and let's see all the information from the emp table. Now I like to lay my SQL queries out like this. So I like to put the different parts of the expression on different lines. And if you remember in SQL, for a lot of what we'll be doing, it's going to be select from where. To here, we're just going to be focused on select and from. So select star from emp, that's going to show us all the columns in our table. Which particular table? Well, it's the emp table. Now over here, I can click run, and there's my result set. You can see it's shown us all of the columns in the emp table. If I want to go back to the SQL, I'll come back over to here to the views, and if we click on the little drop down triangle, you can see we've got the different views here, datasheet view and SQL view. So I can flip backwards and forwards between running the query and actually viewing the result of the query. With this simple SQL query, that's the same as clicking run. You can see that we're running the query here. Now I will just point out one other thing at this point, which is let me bring the emp table up again. Now it can be easy in this interface to mistake a table for a query, and you can see they look very similar, and so often when people are first learning Access, they get a bit confused. They're going, oh, well, why, if I'm in here, can't I access the SQL? Well, what's happened here is that you've brought the emp table into focus, so you're no longer in the query. So if I click on here, I've no longer got the SQL mode because I'm not actually in the query anymore. So let me just close that table down, go back to the query, and now I can gain access to the SQL mode. If I close this query, I'll get the opportunity to save it. And what we of course can do then is you can just give it a simple name like example 1, whatever it is that you choose. And I click on OK, and you can see that the query appears in the queries list. And then from there, I could do a right mouse click, I can open it up into design view. There we go, I've gone into SQL mode again and I can edit it. So what you can do is as you practice the SQL queries, you can save them and they appear under queries. You can only type, in Access, you can only type one SQL statement into one query window. And that's a little bit different to other databases where you can have a text file with lots and lots of SQL statements. But here, just one query inside each query that we save.